Greetings, inderesTV viewers. Sampo published its second quarter results. Today I'm interviewing Sampo's Group CEO Torbjörn Magnusson. Torbjörn, I have a couple of big picture questions first, since this is your last interview as Sampo's Group CEO.
Yes.
You've been in the insurance business for a long time, a quarter of a century as first CEO of If and then CEO of Sampo Group, as mentioned in the introduction. How has the Nordic P&C market changed over this quarter century?
I think it's changed enormously, of course. When I started out, it was a very loss-making business and it wasn't seen as attractive. And now it's one of the best places to work. It's become much more digitalized, increasingly so, with new types of technology all the time. And it's a completely different place nowadays.
And much more consolidated perhaps as well.
The Nordics was already very consolidated back then, but even more so now, yes.
If we go to If specifically, what has been the main parts of the If evolution in the last 25 years, and especially in terms of your competitive advantages like investments into digitalization and so on?
You're really looking at the long term here. No, I think what we have done well in this period is that we have looked ahead all the time. And that sounds easy, but we have also been allowed by our owners to invest in what we believed was the future all the time. And that brings us back to technology and digital things. So we were always early with the new digital tools that we needed, the webification, things like data warehouses for analysis, things like AI in the past 5 years, of course. And that has helped us keep the results good and also very stable, haven't they?
Indeed. I think again, this is a big picture question, allow me. I think in the beginning of 2000s, the combined ratio in this business were closer to 100%, very high indeed.
Yeah, we're higher than that.
And now most companies are flirting with 80% combined ratio almost. So how do you see this evolution, and is there any possibility to move lower anymore?
When I took up the CEO of If, I started out with a combined ratio of between 114 and 115 actually. And then, of course, you can't have that. The necessity to attract shareholders means that you have to bring that down. And we work with that, and the market work with that. Then one thing that people forget is that the Nordic region is extremely efficient. Not only us, I must admit, but we have a very efficient insurance market. So low admin costs compared to many other parts of the world, and that brings the combined ratios down. But then where we are today, when we're at 115, you have to take steps of 5% at a time. Of course, we don't do that anymore. We had a 60 basis point improvement, 40 basis points on the risk ratio now, and that was a good development, roughly the pace we've had for a period now. So I don't expect 5% jumps, but I don't see an end to our improvements, of course.
I think those changes will be very incremental going forward. How do you see the role of artificial intelligence, for example, when making your operations even more efficient? I think AI is a hot word for 2 years, but do you have any concrete examples?
It's a hot word, but it's a real world for us. AI, we've used it, as I said, this is not new this year. We used it for maybe 5 years in very different contexts. It's such a wide tool that we can use for call center support for the employees there, for fraud detection, for pricing purposes. It's a big development in the area of IT, one of several over these past 25 years.
I think you pay as claims around 60% of your insurance revenues. Something like that. So the expenses are like 20%. So how much lower can those 20% go?
I don't see any end to that at the moment. So let's see.
So it could be a fully automated operation.
I've got a brilliant successor that will continue to work and has really improved both the efficiency of he's actually been heading 2 divisions in the past, both private lines and industrial. But not only that, but of course he has also pushed more growth via all these digital developments that we have had.
Indeed. I know it's very hard making predictions, but do you see any dangers of trend reversal in combined ratio because of, let's say, competition, for example?
That's his job now to make sure that doesn't happen.
But from your perspective?
From the perspective now, I said in a telephone conference that we just recently had that the past quarter didn't really contain any big changes to trends in our industry in the Nordics or in the UK. So that means that we expect that the successes we have now in the markets, the fact that our customers really like our web offering, that doesn't stop now, of course, that there's no change to that trend.
Indeed. If somebody would want to compete with Nordic insurance players and thinking about the mold you have created through the collection of data for a very long time, huge database, and on the other hand you have the scale to invest in the digitalization, which smaller players perhaps don't have.
And not least claims services across all the countries, in all parts of our Nordic region. That's quite a big obstacle for a newcomer to our industry.
Exactly. So my question is, do you say that for a new player to enter, is the logic like if you can't beat them, then just join them or buy them? So they just have to outright buy the whole Sampo?
Well, you saw a number of attempts to enter the Nordic market going back 7, 8, 9 years ago, and they have all disappeared because they didn't succeed. So that, I think, is one way to answer your question.
If we go to zoom in the second quarter, just a few questions. Your operations were excellent, as usual, but you also started a 200 million buyback program. So just to remind viewers of your capital allocation policies, would you like to comment on that?
Well, we have a basic policy saying that 70% at least of profits should be returned to shareholders. And then we supplement that with buybacks if and when we have excess capital. And then we've said for a long time that we didn't actually distribute all of the profits from last year. So this was a remainder from last year. And then the next question is normally if we know when we will be able to sell some of the legacy assets that we have. And implicitly that means the rumored IPO of Nova. And we don't know that, but we have no reason to keep that capital in the company. So that will be, if it happens, that will also be returned to shareholders.
And Topdanmark integration is doing well. You keep finding synergies all the time.
Yes, that's normal. People work hard. They work together and they develop things. And at the beginning of such a transaction, it's called synergies. And later on, it's just business as usual.
Business as usual, indeed. If we go to Hastings, it has grown a lot during the period when Sampo has been the main owner, and now the 100% owner. I think it has doubled its revenue. How do you view the competition and, let's say, industry cycle in the UK? I think when you bought Hastings, it was a more difficult market back then, maybe now a bit more rational, to use your term. How do you view the market now, where it's heading?
I think that we had, going back just a couple of years, we had a very rapid change in claims inflation, which meant that people were a little bit late and they increased pricing quite a bit, overshot a little bit. Late last year, it was quite easy to make money in non-life insurance or sell more in the UK. And now the market has come closer to let's call it, it's been rational. It's adjusted to the claims experience. We still meet our targets. We still see growth opportunities, not least based on new technology, new products, home insurance, telematics. So I have positive expectations on the future, but it's not quite as easy as it was a year ago.
Yeah, exactly. I think Hastings enjoys the similar levels of return on equity like the other Sampo operations, something like 20%. So do you think this is sustainable level?
I mean, I would expect any successor of mine to improve. What I done?
Okay. going to this successor question, why do you think Morten Susrud is the right CEO to start at Sampo's helm on October?
Morten is a very energetic, very lively guy that spreads energy around himself in the organization. He's a fair guy and he's an extremely good insurance professional. He's a likable leader. He will be a really good successor, and I was very pleased that the board chose him.
And in which state you hand over Sampo to him?
I think we're in a fine position competitively. The markets are also as good as ever. The UK market has improved by consolidation, and Sampo has improved in digitalization ahead of the others and more than the others because we are the biggest. So he shouldn't complain.
All right. Thanks, Torbjörn, for the interview, and I wish you very fulfilling retirement days.
Thank you. Thank you very much.